it's you again.
Welcome back! Oh, hi, I'm Marc. I used to be a senior artist at Blizzard Entertainment, and now I teach art for a living. In this week's episode of my award-winning series that I call YouTube Art School, I'll show you how to draw faces of all ages, from baby to granny. Whoa, what? Quickly, let's get this class started! Alright, class is in session. Pay attention. Today we're going to do a speed run on aging. I'll be starting with the drawing of an infant, and then I'll keep painting, adjusting the face and its features as the infant turns into a young kid, a teenager, a young adult, middle-aged, and finally an elderly person. It's gonna be a wild ride, from smooth to wrinkly. Almost free too, but not quite. Make sure you pay the class fee of either 1 like or 1 sub before you keep watching. I think it'll be good value. Don't be cheap. Now let's paint right into it, starting at age 0, when in theory the face is at its cutest. What exactly makes a baby face look that way? The most non-threatening a human face will ever be. What is cute? Usually we find cute things that are small and round. It's basic, but imagine a triangle with eyes next to a circle with eyes. One is clearly cuter. The other one is too spiky, too edgy. Careful with those corners, bro. Babies have very little definition in their features since there's such a big layer of fat all over their face, well, under the skin obviously, and usually their heads will look rounder than adult heads as a result. If you ever got complimented about having a baby face, it's probably because your face has some fullness, roundness to it. Also, babies have an almost total lack of skin folds. Their faces are like inflated balloons, stretching the skin from within. The facial features themselves are still in development, so they'll look more like tiny buttons on the face. The nose is very short, the lips are small, the eyebrows aren't grown in yet, but the eyes grow to adult size by about 3 months old, so they should look disproportionately big compared to everything else on the face at that age. Our little baby here is growing up and she's finally opened her eyes. So we can see what I mean. Those big beady eyes. Another detail that's important to point out because their eyelids aren't developed completely yet. They tend to cover more of the eyeball, leaving a bigger ratio of iris to sclera compared to adults. The sclera is just the white portion of the eye, by the way. So less white, bigger irises. What's left? Oh yes, the big cheeks. Babies have those to help with breastfeeding, which is why it tends to go away as we get older. We don't normally breastfeed as adults. What makes the cheeks look that way for babies is what's called the buccal fat on both sides of the jaw. That's gonna create the rounded shape that you can see here, just like 2 half spheres almost. As our toddler grows into a 7 to 8-year-old girl, the face goes through a bit of a transformation. Overall, the facial features and the skull have had time to develop by now, so everything should have more definition. In the eyes, we're starting to see more of the sclera, and as the skull grows, the eyeballs spread further apart. The eyelids aren't as fatty anymore, and so they're starting to take shape and they help make the eyes appear wider. As the face grows, it more visibly stretches vertically, where you'll see the nose much lower now, along with the mouth. The eyebrows have had time to grow as well, and now they're more visible here. She still has big cheeks, but as the face gets bigger, the buccal fat mostly stays the same, maybe even starts shrinking by now. So we're basically left with a similar amount of fat, but spread over a bigger surface. That's why she doesn't seem as cheeky as when she was a toddler, but she's definitely still got cheeks. That's a big defining feature of the face at that age. That, the big irises, and the overall smoothness of the skin are all key distinctions at that age that I think about when drawing kids, which is basically never. Now let's activate the time machine and jump to early adulthood or late teenage years, when the face is arguably at its best. It's all downhill from there. And by the way, if you want to learn how I paint my portraits, I made a class not too long ago going over my process. Check it out in the top right corner of the screen and down in the description below. Now I'm not going to spend too long on this one since that's the age that most artists draw most of their characters. Nothing new, but I wanted to have it in there too to show it against the one we just saw, specifically just how much the buccal fat impacts the silhouette of the face. At this age, it's mostly invisible, so we're able to actually see the jawline properly. The skull has fully matured too, so her face is quite a bit longer, continuing the trend from the previous step where the eyes, nose and mouth get even further apart. We're also able to see more of the white of the eyes, so I'd argue this is where the cuteness we had in the younger years is all gone. The iris looks much smaller now in comparison. Maybe the cuteness changes into beauty. And that's debatable. I could have painted her better. Anyways, she's about to go through another transformation as she keeps aging and reaches her 40s. This is just like me right now at 35. Thankfully, I don't age as quickly as she does. That would suck. Now, since she's starting to have white hair, she's decided to dye her hair light brown. That's probably not her biggest concern though. She's got gravity and loosening skin coming at her. Specifically, her facial fat pads are starting to drop. What the heck? I present you fat pads. As we age, these slowly start to deteriorate and drop, which is why you'll start to see some wrinkles on the face. Often the skin folds will form in between the fat pads. So the more they drop, the more likely you'll get wrinkles. This varies, but usually those you'll see first are the bags under the eyes, since the skin is very thin there, very weak. We can also often see a resting nasolabial line, this line right here, caused by this nasolabial fat pad there, dropping down and creating a small pocket of fat. That's not all though. Every single fat pad should have started dropping to some extent by this point. The fat pads above our upper eyelids, the superior orbital fat pads, might already be pushing down on the upper eyelids, creating a bit of droopiness in the eyes. You can see here. The nose might also be changing a bit as the cartilage inside ages. It's not as perky as it used to be, and the lips are very subtly starting to lose their fullness as well. Now, we'll want to keep in mind fat pads, particularly for the last step in today's class, as our fast aging lady's face will get quite wrinkly. Also, while she finishes aging, if you like how I teach, you should definitely check out my complete art education program for artists and join our community of artists. Link in the description below, along with a coupon for a big discount for the holidays until the end of the month. Alright then, there she is at, I'm gonna say 80 years old? We're gonna need the fat pad image to help me explain all these folds. Also, man, what a weird exercise to draw a character from infant all the way to granny. I recommend it, kinda trippy. Anyways, in this final step, we're obviously going to look at the wrinkles, but there are a few other effects of aging that I want to point out first. Stuff, obviously, that impacts how the face looks. One has to do with the skin material or the skin texture. As skin loses its elasticity with age, it also loses its shine. You won't find the same level of specular highlights on older skin. It's more like a matte surface, not very oily either. The color of the skin also changes, although I didn't really paint the effect here, but the skin tends to lose its vibrance and gets more desaturated, more gray looking. The blood just can't reach everywhere as well anymore. Another effect of aging might be sun damage on the skin, leaving dark spots everywhere. Now, it's wrinkle time. Where do we draw them? Let's look at the fat pads again here. Like I mentioned before, those wrinkles are likely to appear once the fat pads start to deteriorate and drop. So almost everywhere you see two fat pads touching, you can probably expect a wrinkle to form there at some point. You might also get wrinkles on the forehead even though there isn't a fat pad there, but that's just as a result of the muscle flexing and folding the skin over and over and over again. Over many years, that might start to show. Anyways, I think it's easy to spot the superior and inferior orbital fat pads in action. The one above here pushing down on the upper eyelid a lot more now, and the lower one creating a big bag under the eyes. The nasolabial fat pad will of course result in a more prominent nasolabial line, but it can also create a bit of a surface disturbance here. I didn't draw a fold, but you can kind of see the shading makes its presence a bit more visible. Anyways, from there, all the fat pads of the cheeks will also be dropping and creating sagginess around the jawline as these push down on the jowl fat pads. On my lady here, the folds you can see is the gap between the jowl and the cheek fat pads. And this fold here is because of the same jowl fat pads. So knowing the fat distribution on the face really helps to draw skin wrinkles. I hope that's clear. Oh, one last thing. Her nose has also gotten more swollen and deformed with age. Their ears too, actually. They're both made out of cartilage, and this will also deteriorate over time, no longer offering a proper support for the skin laying on top of it. And that's gonna be it for today's class. Now you should be able to draw a face of any age. You have no excuse. I hope that was helpful. Let me know down in the comments. If you have any suggestions for future videos that you think might help others too, don't hesitate to share them down below as well. It's starting to take a while, but I still read every comment. And then if you think your art buddies would also like to see a baby painting turn into an old lady painting, share this with them. We're almost at 1 million subscribers, and as you know, I'll be opening a public Discord when we reach it for all of you to join. Very exciting times. With that said, make sure that you enable notifications to be on time for next week's class and pay the class fee if you haven't already. And by the way, if you end up drawing something cool as a result of this class or any other of my classes, of course, share it with me on social media. I'm most active on Instagram and Twitter. I absolutely love to see what you guys create, even though I might not be able to reply to everyone. Oh, and also almost forgot to congratulate you for watching until the end. You can go ahead and download one of my 2 custom brush packs that I use daily. It has all my favorite brushes, and you can get it for absolutely free in the top right corner of the screen right here and down in the description below. Use them responsibly. Welcome